Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's DAF, Bava Kamma Tzadik Vav. We are at the 10th line off the top of the Yomit. So we know that if a Gazlan steals something and then there's a shinui that took place, a drastic change. We say shinui is kaina, the Gazlan now takes possession of this item, so the added value belongs to him. He only repays based on the value at the time of the theft. And even if it's not such a drastic shinui, such as added value within the entity itself, let's say there's wool growing on the sheep, etc. So in this case, according to some, the Ganav is also going to keep that extra. And Rashi brings, it's based on Takanas HaShavim. So according to some opinions, it's because we want to encourage, we want to facilitate repentance, we want to push him to do teshuvah, to make it easier for him. So we say, look, you can keep the extra, just give back the main thing. Amar Rava, says the Gemara, Amar Rava, Gazal v'yishbiach. So the Gazlan was mashbiach, the item, it is now worth more. Umachar, and he sold it to another person. Or, v'gazal v'yishbiach v'hayrish. After the item increased in value, he inherited it to his kids. Do we say that the next possessor can actually keep the shvach, or does he have to return it? No, he keeps it. Mashish biach machar. The added value was given over to the customer, and he keeps it. Just as the Gazlan can keep it, likewise the customer. It sort of carries over to the next person as well. Mashish biach, whatever increased under his care, hayrish, goes over to his family. But Rabba, now comes a new question. Suppose this added value did not occur under the Gazlan's care. So the Ganav sold it, and the customer was the one who experienced that increase in value. Does he have a right to keep it or not? After Rabbi posed the question, he concluded, yeah, of course, because ma mochan rishan l'sheni. What did Reuven sell Shimon? Kol zechus shetavel yad, any rights, any benefits that he has, he passed it on. So just as the Gazlan has a right to keep the shvach, likewise the customer. Boy Rava, what about if there's a guy in the middle here? So the guy stole an item and it got increased. There was an increase in value. Does he keep it or not? I have a question. Takanta, you mean this special takana that we apply? Why would we do it for a guy? Special takanas hashavim. Why would you think? He says like this. Tzricha must be speaking. I'm not speaking that the guy wants to keep the shvach. He sold the item to a yid, so now the yid is in possession. Does he keep it or not? So if well, ultimately, if a person comes from a guy, he bought it from a guy, it's sourced in a guy's possession. It's treated like a guy's possession. Why would you give it any rights? Well, the answer is like this. Going the Gazal Yisrael, no, the original Ganav of the Yid Sheganav. He sold it to a guy who experienced this increase in value. And then, the guy turned around and sold to another Yid. So now, it started in the hands of a Yid, and currently, in possession of a Yisrael. What's the halach? Mi amrinan, shall we say, Kivadimi Kari Yisrael, V'hadi Yisrael, since it started and ended in the hands of Yisrael, Avdi Rabbana Takanta, Rabbana apply the Takana, he keeps the extra, or since there is a non-Yisrael in the middle of this process, that disrupts it, with the Avdu, the Rabbana Takanta, we don't apply the Takana take, we leave it unresolved. Amra Papa. Now we proceed to a real, substantive type of shinui, where the item was drastically transformed or processed. We say shinui is kaina, the Gazlan keeps it with all its added benefits and values, and only compensates based on former value. Omar Papa. Haiman the Gazal dikla mechavri. Person robs a palm tree. Basically, he chops it off. Okay? chops off the tree. Avagav the shadya mar la'ara the day, even though he threw it from the other guy's property into his yard. So there was a shinoi and right loikani. That doesn't constitute a sufficient and drastic change to make a kinyan. My time, why? What do you mean? It's a dead tree. Well, mi'ikara dikla mikri v'ashta nama dikla mikri. Initially, it was called a palm tree. It's still called a palm tree despite the fact that it's cut off. But dikla, it started as a palm tree. V'avid guvi, and he chopped it into pieces. There as well, like Kani, there's no kinyan. Why? It still retains its identity somewhat. Hashta miyas guvi. Even now, it's still called guvi de dikla mikri. Pieces of a palm tree. So it still has that original name. But guvi took pieces of that tree, vavdinu kshuri, turned it into beams. Totally new entity, new function. Kani, that's a kinyan. Or, let's say he took shuri ravarbi, he stole large beams. Vavdinu kshuri zufri. And he sort of split it into smaller beams, like Kani. It's not enough of a transformation because it's still called a beam. But Avdinu Kitzut Kani, turned the beams into just planks, into 2x4s, totally different type of function. That's called a kinyan, that's a proper shinui. Amarava. Here come more examples of shinui. Haiman, the gazal liva Vavdinu Hutzi. Person stole a palm branch, a lulav. Not a kosher one that can be used for a mitzvah, just a palm branch. And he split the leaves into separate leaves. Kani. That's called a kinyan. Why? The mikar luliva, mikri. Initially it was called a lulav. V'ashta hutzi. Now it's called, they're called branches. Hutzi v'avdinu chufyu. If he stole just, palm leaves, right? Sorry, hutzi means leaves. He stole leaves, avdinu chufyu, and turned them into a broom. They used to make them into brooms. Kani, that too is considered a drastic enough change for kinyan. Mikar hutzi. Initially they were called leaves. V'ashta chufyu. Now it's a broom. What about chufya? He took a broom made of these leaves, v'avdi shashura, he rearranged it into some sort of chain. Like it's not a kinyan. My time, why? The hadar sasralu v'chufya, because technically he can disrupt the chain and restore it into a broom. So it's a reversible change, not a permanent state, and therefore not a permanent change, and therefore does not constitute a proper shinui. But here comes an interesting question. He stole a proper lulav, a kosher lulav, that can be used for a mitzvah. And the middle, double leaf in the middle, up on top, that is called a tiyumas. That's sort of the, face of the lulav. And that double leaf sort of got split. So does that disqualify the lulav from being used for mitzvah? In which case, it changes the function of the lulav and is considered a shinui? Tashma, here comes a raya. Da'amar Rabbi Masan, Amar Rabbi Shoban Levi, Nitla Tiyemis Pasl. Only if the Tiyemis was totally cut away and removed from that lulav, that disqualifies it. But the Gemara at this point thinks there's no difference. My love, should we assume Hu adin lenechlaka? Removal, split, it's all the same thing. So if it's pasl, it's a shinui. It can no longer serve as a kasher lulav. Loi, no, nitla shani, the chasula. Totally missing. Okay, it's missing a piece of the lulav. That I understand is a different entity and makes it pasl. But if it's just split, perhaps it's still kasher for a mitzvah. There's another version of this discussion, Tashma. So the question was regarding nechelkat yumas. Tashma, the Rav Masan, Amar Shimon Levi, nechelkat yumas. If the yumas gets split, nasa kemi, we treat it as though shenitla, as though it was totally removed. Pasl, the lulav is pasl. In which case, if the ganav did it, he's kainesh mamina. Amar Pap. Hayman the gozal afra mechavri. Imagine a fellow steals some earth, va'avdi levinta, and forms it into a brick. Like Kani, it's not a kinyan, even though it changed forms. My time, why? The hadar mashvi le'afra, because he can just turn it back into earth by crushing the brick. So it's a reversible state. But the other way around, levinta stole a block, va'avdi afra, and then crushed it into earth. Kani, that's a kinyan. You know why? My time. Dilma. My amrs. So what are you suggesting? It's not permanent because Dilma hadar va'avad levinta can take that earth and form it back into a brick. Well, if he does that, it's a brand new entity. That's no longer the old brick. Hai levinta achritihu. It's a brand new brick. Upanim chadashes. Bolukan has a new face. It's a brand new entity. And Rashi adds, because firstly, it's a new thing, and secondly, in terms of its appearance, it's going to be wider, thicker. It's not going to have the exact dimensions. So it appears like a new entity. It's no longer the old piece. Bamar Papa. A person steals a block of silver and mints them into coins. That doesn't constitute a kinyan. My time and why? Because it's reversible. You can redo it into a block of silver. If he takes coins and melts them into a block of silver, that's a proper kinyan. My amris. What do you ask? What are you suggesting? Well, it's not a permanent change. He can reform it into coins. Well, in that case, panim chadashis bolokan, it would be considered a brand new entity, no longer the original item. What about shchimi? He stole old, blackened coins, and he polished them. He, heated them in this kiln, and he refreshed them into brand new shiny coins. Loikani, that's not a kinyan, because, as Rashi says, it's not going to stay shiny. It's going to get blackened and dirty again. That's not a permanent change. Chadati, he stole brand new shiny coins. He turned them into black and dirty ones. Kani, that's a kinyan. My amris. What are you suggesting? Hada avadu chadati. He has the option of refreshing them. Well, ultimately, the blackness would still be discernible. The staining would still be there, so you can't really refresh them properly. Zakla. Let's go back to the Mishnah, which sets down a rule. Kala gazlan, any robber, mishalman, kashasakzeli, pays based on its value at the time of the theft. Now, when we say zaklal, typically we're trying to add something, a new dimension. Lasuyamai, what are we adding in this case? Which case is being added? Lasuyah da amar b'la. This is a chiddush based on Rabbi Yehuda's halacha. Ganav telev v'nasa'il. A ganav steals a lamb, and he holds on to it until it becomes a ram. That's a change of identity. It matured into a ram, a new entity. Or egel v'nasa shur, a calf turned into an ox. Nasa shina b'yada v'kanai. That's a real change, a real transformation. Now it relates to the ganav v'kanai. Tavach. So now if he proceeds by shechting it or selling it, which typically would trigger a four times payment or 5 times payment, but in this case, no. Shaloyu taveach, shaloyu meicher identifies with the ganav. It's no longer that animal that he stole, and therefore he's not liable for the 4 or 5 times payment based on tvicha or mechira. So that's the point of the Mishnah. Even if it underwent this sort of natural progression, matured into a ram, matured into an ox, that too is considered a shinoi, in which case the halacha is applied. How the gazal padna the turi michabre. Okay, this fellow stole a pair of oxen. Ozal karabu karba. So he went ahead and he worked his field. He plowed, zarabu zara. He planted, and he grew a crop. L'soif adrin lemor. It turns out he decided to give it back to the owner. Also, came to Rav Nachman. So he came to Rav Nachman. Amarlu, he told him, zilu shumush of chadara. Go evaluate the extra added, benefit, the added value to this person's farm based, as a result of this work, using his fellow's animals. Amalei Rava challenged this ruling. Turi ashbach, you mean only the oxen generated this added, value in the field? Arale ashbach, what happened to the farm itself? Meaning, this value is inherent in the farm. It's not, necessarily like the shvach we've been discussing all along, an added value, an added, element within the stolen item. Here it's in the field. True, the animals contributed, but it's not really something on the animal. So basically, why would the farmer have to pay him, the full value of the added, the crop, etc., which really was produced by the animal in conjunction with the field? Amar, so Rav Nachman responded, you're right. Mika mina nishaymu kule. Did I tell them to evaluate the full, the full amount? Palu kamina meant half. So suppose he benefited X amount through this process, he pays 50% to the animal owner. Amalei, so Rava responded, but even that, safe, ultimately, gzelu, yukahaja be'ena. Ultimately, what happened? He stole the animal, he used it to work his field. Okay, but now he gives back the animal, he's done. It's not, we have a Mishnah. You don't have to add all these residual benefits that you benefited from the animal. You give the animal back and you're done. Amar Leis, he responded, you know what? I I once told you, Ki Yasivna Medina, when I officiate on a din Torah, Loi Tamer Lemidi, don't come and challenge me. Because in fact, our colleague Hula, Rav Huna, said Eloi about me, Ana, so myself, Rav Nachman referring to himself, was Shvar Malka. Shvar Malka was the name of a Persian king. So Shmuel in the Gemara is referred to sometimes as Shvar Malka because Shmuel was an expert in halacha. He had the last word in terms of dinim. So basically, Rav Huna warned against meddling with myself or Shmuel. Ana Shvar Malka, Achi Bedina. He's we're colleagues when it comes to our ability to rule properly in halachas. And basically, rest assured, this was really thought through, and I'll explain to you why I obligated him to do this payment. It's not typical. It's something unusual and exceptional. I agree. Hi Inish, this fellow that we're speaking of, Gazlana Atiku, he's a career robber. And I was compelled, I had to go and resort to something unusual and penalize him extra above and beyond the letter of the law in order to discourage his further, availing himself to his neighbor's property. Continues the mission. Gazal behema b'iskin. The fellow stole an animal and he held on to it until it got very old. Avadim b'iskinu, likewise, if he stole a slave and he held on to him until they've reached a ripe old age of 70. Mishalem kishasak zela, he has to pay. He's liable to its value at the time of the theft. He can't just get away with giving him the actual animal in its current state. Rabbi Yehuda, I agree when it comes to the animals, but ba'avadim, when it comes to the slaves, an eved is like a piece of your estate, like karka, in which case gezela doesn't really affect its status. It sort of retains its ownership, it retains its identity. You can tell him, look, take back your eved. It's as though I never stole it. Here's your eved. Continues the Mishnah. He stole a coin and it was punctured, which makes it, unfit for use. Peiros v'irakivu, he stole produce, which now got rotten. Yain v'hechmetz, wine, which soured. Mishalam k'shazak zela, he must repay based on its value during the theft. Matbe'ah v'nifsa. What about a coin which now sort of went out of circulation? So its change is not really visible, right? It's just that technically it can't be used. But it's not a tangible, physical change in the actual item. Truma v'nitmas, he stole truma, which became tummy. Again, unfit for use, but it's not tangibly visible in the item. Chametz, another example, he stole chametz, and it's after Pesach. It's useless. V'avar Pesach, behema v'nevde ba'averu, he stole an animal, which was then used for Avera, which cannot be used for a carbon, or for some other reason it's not used for the Mizbeach, or the animal killed somebody, it's going to be stoned. In all these cases, the animal is pretty much disqualified. In all these cases, you can just tell the owner, look, take your animal back, because it looks the same as before, here's your animal. Amar Papa, when the Mishnah speaks about an animal which grew old, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Even if the animal is just now in a weakened state of health. In that case as well, the Mishnah says you have to go back in time and pay him the past value. You can't just give it the way it is. Asks the Gemara Bahanan, but the Mishnah says, now we speak about an old animal. Who says it applies to even a case of a weakened animal? Who says that's a drastic enough change of status? Says the Gemara, when we speak about weakened, we're not speaking about a temporary weakness, some sort of serious weakness which will never be restored. So that's like old age. He's not going to recover, his health and his strength again, and therefore is treated like his skina. You can't just give it back as is. Rabbi Yehuda was quoted as follows. This is the Gemara we had before. Even a natural, progressive change, afilu gonav tlev and asa ayli, stole a lamb which turned into a ram, egov and asa shor, a calf into an ox, naas shini biyad v'kani, that too is considered a shinoi and is koine, and therefore tavach hamachar, if it proceeds with tvicha and mechira, he doesn't pay 4 or 5 times as much. Shaloyu taveach shaloyu mecher, it's as though he did it to his animal. Amar lei. So he responded, Lev aminalach. Didn't I once tell you, Gavri, don't just switch around names. This halach that you're quoting from Rabbi Yechanan, Hahu, Mishmei Rabbi Lo, Itma, really it was quoted the name of Rabbi Lo, he's the source of the halach. Now Mishnah says, Rabbi Omer Ba'avadim, Omer Loi, Haresh L'chol Afanecha, it's an old Eved, he can send it back as is. Why? As we explained, an Eved is like Karka, it's not affected by change, by stealing, you can give it back, it's still his, as before. Amar B'chanina, Barav Dimi, Amar Rav. So Rav is quoted as saying, Halachak Rav Meir, we follow Rav Meir. You can send back the Eved as is. As opposed to the Rabban who say, no, you have to pay for it. Asks the Gemara, why would Rav pick the individual Shita of Rav Meir in contrast to the Rabbanon? If Rav, Shavik, Rabban, Rav abandoned the Rabbanon, the Rabbim, V'avik Rameh and chose Rav Meir? Why would he do that? Amri, the answer is like this. B'shum the Braisa Ifchatanya. Because in the Braisa, actually, the opinions are switched. So basically, the Rabbanon are the ones who say you can send back the Eved as is. And that's all Rav was saying. We follow Rav Meir's opinion in our Mishnah. You could send the Eved back as is, which corresponds with the Shita's Rabbanon, because that's really the Rabbanon's Shita, as we find in the Braisa. Asks the Gemara, well, in the Braisa Ifchatani, I understand, but Rav Shalak Masnis Nevavik Braisa, why would Rav, if he had a choice between, going with the Mishnah's version and going with the Braisa's version, why would he pick the Braisa, which is typically less reliable than the Mishnah? Answer is, Rav Masnis Nam Ifchatani. Rav switched around the names of the Mishnah as well. Right? To be in line with the Braisa. That in fact, according to Rabbanon, you can send back the Eved. On my time of the Rav Da'af Masnissen, come with the Braisa. Why would Rav edit the Mishnah based on the Braisa's version? Adrab, if anything, the other way around. Neifach LeBraisa, Mekam Masnissen. He should edit the Braisa because of the Mishnah. The answer is, Rav Nami Masnissen Ifchat Asne. Actually, Rav's, Rabbeim, he was taught that way. That in the Mishnah, you meant to switch the names as well. So he chose that version. Asks the Gemara, it says the Gemara V'Iba Yisem, another option could be, Kilo Yafach. When don't we switch one because of the other? Chada Mekame Chada. So you don't do the Mishnah because of the Braisa, when it's just one Braisa. But Chada Mekame Tarti, one Mishnah, on account of two Braisas, which have it the other way, Afich, that justifies a switch in the Mishnah as well. So we had one Braisa, which switched it around. We have another Braisa as well coming up the Sanya, which will prove that according to the Rabbanon, send back the Eved as is, the Eved is considered like Karka, unfazed, unaffected by a change of possession. Hamach Bava Kamma. So a fellow made a swap. Here, take my Parah, I'll take your Chamar. The animal gave birth sometime in the middle. We're not sure, was it before he acquired it or afterwards? So we don't know who keeps the calf. Another example, he sold his maidservant, and she gave birth sometimes in the middle. We don't know before he bought it or after he bought it. So one guy says, you know what? It gave birth under my watch. The other fellow is not sure. He's silent. Zachaba, so the fellow who's confident in his claim, he keeps it. Okay? What about he says, I'm not sure. He says, I'm not sure. They split it. What if Reuben and Shimon both are confident and absolute in their argument? He says it was by me. He says it was by me. So the seller makes a shvur, he presents an oath that, in fact, it took place under his care, and he holds on to the offspring. That's the way we do it, rather than have the other fellow swear and take it. Because that's in line with the general principle and how the shvur works. Typically, anybody making a shvur in the Torah, the point is to hold on to your possession. The point is to swear, to refrain from paying, to refrain from losing. Here as well, the meicher makes a shvur and holds on to the animal. Whose sheet is that? Divrei Meir, who applies a shvur with respect to a disagreement on the offspring of the maidservant. So you make a shvur with respect to proving ownership on a slave. We treat him like any other item which justifies a shvur. The Chachamim, they disagree. A shvur cannot be applied. You know why? You never make a shvur with respect to a dispute pertaining to slaves or land, and that's based on psukim So clearly the Rabbanon hold that an Eved is treated like karka, like property, like real estate. So here we have another brisa that corresponds with the earlier brisa. That is the Rabbanon, not Rabbi. Rabbanon hold like an Eved is treated like karka. Okay, that explains why Rav chose this opinion. Well, hi halach Rab Meir. So why would Rav get up and say we follow Rab Meir? Halacha Rabbanon mibayla. He should have said, well, we follow the Rabbanon, because according to him, their names are switched. The Rabbanon are the ones who hold that Eved is like karka. Hachikam, he just meant to say like this. That's what he meant. He meant to say, according to your version, according to your version, that Rab Meir is the one who says Eved is like karka. So guess what? Halacha Rab Meir. That's how we paskin, like Rab Meir. Because, as we explained, Rav's version of the events was that it's the Rabbanon really that hold that Eved is like karka. So ultimately, you can send it back as is, even in his ripe old age. Okay, let's summarize today's DAF. We discussed many examples of a proper shinoi. What constitutes change? What doesn't really constitute permanent change? It would not be considered shinoi koine. We discussed even a case where an animal progressed to the next stage, Tila to an ayil, egel to asher, according to Rabbi law. That too is considered a shinoi. We discussed a case of the behema or the Eved reaching old age. So when it comes to the behema, of course, he has to compensate based on its former value at the time of the theft. According to the regarding the Eved, well, it's a machlekes. So according to one opinion, you have to compensate. According to the other opinion, the Eved is like karka, doesn't really get affected by this robbery. It's still considered in the owner's possession all along, and even now, when it's in its old age, you can just turn around and say, "Look, take your animal back. I'm not responsible. Take your Eved back. I'm not responsible." And according to Rav, that's how he paskin. In fact, Rav holds that is shitas Rabbanon. All the best to you, and atzlacha Rav.